Right, so we'll just wait, give people a few minutes to arrive. I think while people are waiting, if you'd like to just sort of set a little challenge in the comments, always want to make it a little interactive. So for this one, while people are arriving, we're now talking about how to actually get on and plan and actually get benefit from AI solutions. So I'd like everyone to have a think about, for your organization and your adoption, what is your greatest fear of what might occur with AI in your organization, and what is your greatest hope for it?
You know, Mark, I've heard you ask this question now a number of times. I don't know what your answer is. So I'm curious.
My answer is no one like speaks up and tells about the fears. And
what is your greatest fear?
We've had a few AGIs, haven't we, and a few Skynets. Yeah. My worry is that the hype outlives like what really it can fundamentally do. That's the fear, that the big vendors get hold of it, and suddenly we're kind of compromising on what it can do, right? For sort of vendor kind of direction. But my biggest hope is I think this is even more unifying than digital was in bringing sort of business and IT together. And and I really hope that this really kind of repurposes the role of IT within business. I think.
Yeah, nice. I like it. Yeah, I'm with you. I think, you know, it's interesting because I think people have that fear that, you know, AI is going to come and take their jobs, and, you know, all those things that you know, you hear commonly in the market, and equally, you know, commonly in conversations that we've had. But for me, I think the greatest hope is that it's really gonna, you know, emphasize the brilliance of the mind, and, you know, that human involvement, that human experience, is going to be so critical to how people truly leverage the full benefit of AI, because it's that strategic thinking of applying it to the right use cases, etc., which I think is the most important from my perspective.
Yeah.
Also, folks, don't be afraid to put your cameras on. The settings should allow you to do so. If not, let me know and I'll do some fiddling with the controls in the background. But I believe you should be able to get your cameras on if you feel comfortable to do so. They just have to look at me and Mark then. Who, until about 10 minutes ago, we were dressed exactly the same as well.
Got my GW badge on, yeah.
Gotta represent.
Okay, we'll give it a couple of minutes for those who've just joined. Really interested to see, you know, answer either of those questions in the chat. What's your greatest fear of what might happen with AI in your organization, and what's your greatest hope? Try and make this a little interactive, and feel free throughout this, throw in any questions. Tom will monitor if I'm not noticing it, and we'll shout up and put the questions for me.
Nice to see you, Russell. Thank you for putting your camera on and joining us.
No problem.
Okay. I think I'm going to get cracking to stick to time, because we're also recording this for people to see. Shall I get cracking, Tom?
Let's go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So this is actually the third of a series, and now we're getting into really thinking about how we plan a roadmap for AI transformation, how we actually execute these projects, and how we actually don't wait for 12 months, 24 months, 36 months to build all the foundations for the future when the future has already happened, kind of thing. So that's what I'm going to be covering in this one. I'm Mark Simpson. I think I know most of you already, but I'm Director of Strategy and AI at GW. Been working with technology for many, many decades, and I see a number of waves of innovation come and go, and this is probably the one that's excited me the most. I'm really interested on how AI can make a real tangible difference to not just businesses, but human kind in general, I think. Within GW, we've been going for over 30 years now. We build products, we build custom products for our clients, products that will differentiate them in the market, products that will help innovate and stay ahead and make the good use of technology that we all want. We're employee owned, which gives us a real sort of drive to make sure we adhere to sort of our values of brilliance, ownership, etc. So, that's quite important to us that we adhere to that, and that enables us to really kind of give value to our clients. But our real sort of motto, or what we want to do is make sure that people don't waste money and time on technology that hasn't worked for them. Make sure we use technology for their benefit. So don't believe in these kind of big 12, 18-month transformation programs where it's very technology driven. We believe in ones that can look at tangible business outcomes and incrementally, add that value so that we can prove it's working, go and get the more budget and more initiatives and more business cases, and incrementally add more and more value to the businesses we work with. I did 2 previous sessions on this, one on critical success factors, one on what we call the intelligence blueprint, which is how you design AI solutions. I've come up with a set of patterns that help us very quickly get from idea to concept to implementation. And today I'm going to take a step back and have a think about, well, how do we actually now get the whole organizations together to actually build a roadmap to deliver this value? In the first workshop, I introduced these 6 success factors, and these are categories really that I call them. But the idea is that within each of these 6, you need to build good habits for adoption of AI. This is not about just putting foundations in place, but it's about people thinking differently. It's about being clear on the vision of how AI will work, how it will enhance human experiences. Your design of your products will be different if you're embedding AI in it. We will move away from just form-based request and response kind of interactions with IT systems to a lot more proactive, a lot more partnerships with the applications and systems that we're doing. So you've got to really think about the experience in that product. Your assets will change, the way that they are written to make sure that you're secure at all levels, to make sure you've got the guardrails in. You need to deliver fast. If you're going to keep up with kind of your competitors in the world of AI, you will need to be using AI to help you deliver faster. We've revolutionized sort of our SDLC with aspects of AI throughout it to help us to, test and hypotheses and get things into live a lot earlier. And then operations, you need to going to be running this safely. And there's a number of things you'll do in these, but my approach really is to just start building habits in each of these areas. So for those success factors, there's an assessment that we've written. There's the link to it. Please, if you haven't done already, go and have a look at that. And you'll go through a series of questions, and then it will present to you 6 habits in each of these 6 categories. These are the things that you could do today, or the things that will make sure you get long-term kind of benefit from AI, right? So with those habits being put in place, we've then got what we call the intelligence blueprint, which is how you take your ideas of how AI can make a difference in a certain business process, business activity, business proposition, and how you can bake in the design, the good practice design from AI solutions, making sure that the experience to the users is seamless and is actually more more akin to how people are using modern interfaces today. You know, a lot more conversational interfaces, a lot more prompting and context of the solutions. Make sure you choose the right intelligence solutions. You don't want a design where you're tied into sort of one vendor. The industry is moving so fast that you need to understand the correct design of these solutions. If you're building a conversational agent on top of a proprietary technology, then you've got to be aware of that and you've got to be moving at that vendor's pace. Whereas very often, if you're building it in your customer channels and you want to be competitive and you want to be, you know, really responsive to sort of demand and change, you need to be in control of that intelligence layer. And then, you know, with every new technology wave, systems AI readiness. So getting the systems integration, getting your data in the right state is as important as ever, right? So getting that right will allow you to apply that intelligence for that great human experience. So we've talked a lot about how we do this, but what should you start with? Where should you go first? You know, and I think there's a great quote here from Ray Kurzweil. I don't know if you're aware of him, but a great author and a great sort of innovative thinker who made this simple quote of "We live in the future now," right? So this is so relevant with AI. Things are moving so fast that if you do not have a strategy and a plan and a vision of where you're going to get to with your core business systems, with your customer engagement systems, someone else will. Your competitors will. Your competitors will always be in the future. So the question I'd like you all to ask yourselves really is, are we ready for the future? Right? Now, I think the answer is probably no in most organizations, you know, but this is the strategy. You need to be ready for that future. Whether it's your competitors doing something different, using their, you know, fresh start and innovative thinking, or whether it's your customers just expecting more, expecting a very different user experience when they're engaging with systems or when they're engaging with applications on their phones or interactions with customer services. You know, the expectation is rising from this. You know, a lot of people, when they've rolled out chatbots, kind of see that the feedback is, oh, I want to talk to a human. That's not really the outcome that the customer wants from that. They want rich information. They want you to know everything about them and their account. They want you to come up with the options fast. They want you to answer the call within seconds, right? So these are their expectations. And I don't think they're getting that with a chatbot or with the human customer services. The future will be, you know, a lot different from that. So hopefully this presentation can give you a few tips of how you go about getting ready for the future. And the only way you'll move fast enough for this really is to build some solutions as you go, try and improve. So when I talk about roadmaps, I don't talk about spending months kind of preparing all of the foundation elements. It's spotting the elements that will add the value now and building the habits as you go through it. Okay. Now, what's the industry doing here? Well, Gartner just had their large sort of European CIOs Expo in Barcelona this month, and there were two big common themes from it. AI, as you would expect, and how the future will change. And then low code was massive as well. And this is one of the challenges we're in as an industry. I did a workshop earlier this week, and with various different people from different business units, with very limited input from IT, and everything was about the promise of AI, what it can do for me. It can save me time. It can make me more creative. It can increase our customers' experience. So great ideas, you know, and great kind of energy of how to implement AI. And then you've got an IT side saying, yes, we know that, but we've got to understand all of the risks associated with that. If we're going to use these AI solutions, we need to prepare our data in the right way. We need to make sure we've got our AI ops in place to be able to move models between different environments. Our test strategy has to be right. So what this is driving a lot of is those business users moving to low code or shadow IT, as is often kind of termed, where they're trying things out that they're promising, well, this is just for the low hanging fruit. We're just using Copilot agents for this, easy use case. But these grow and grow and grow. And if they're successful, suddenly they've got a Copilot agent processing their claims, process. So we've got to realign this. We've got to make sure that business and IT come together to plan the roadmap, of how the future will look like. We also see that there's a lot of talk in the industry about how AI can drive efficiencies, right? This McKinsey review of the state of AI in 2025 promoted that yes, 80% of respondents said that efficiency is one of their objectives. But the real high performers, the ones that are going to compete in the future, the ones that are going to outperform their competitors, they're the ones that are going to delight their customers, are the ones who are really focusing on the value of AI coming from growth, from innovation, from better experiences. Right. So when we're applying AI in our enterprise, as well as those efficiency use cases, we've got to look at more creative and more innovative uses. We've got to look and reimagine how our processes will look like in the future, what outcomes we're going to want to achieve and what experiences we want to give our customers. So it's a big challenge. Enterprise AI, enterprise IT systems look like this diagram, in the background here. It is complex. There's a lot of business as usual kind of initiatives going on. There's probably transformation programs that have been going on for 5, 6, 7 years already that, had started before of the big impact of Gen AI around it. There'll be lots of proof of concepts going on. I see Milan had put a comment about getting the ROI, and there's a lot of POCs are relatively easy. We see that in the enterprises a lot, that there's a lot going on. So how do we bring this together? Well, the first thing for me is we start thinking about, not first of all, well, what's the process and how can we make it more efficient? What are the tools and how will they help us? Get back to thinking about what is the outcome we want to drive here. So reimagine, redefine these processes rather than just making them more efficient. So simple examples, if we looked at processes like research to publish or, producing a presentation for a certain outcome, we should be thinking about, well, what are we doing here? Well, we're delivering high quality content. For what reason? We want to give our clients strategic insights, not just a PDF presentation. We want to turn proposals around accurately, fast. So think about those outcomes. Think about what problems are we trying to solve rather than jumping straight into the tools. Now, there was a good framework that was introduced here by Tony Ulwick, which was he pioneered this framework called Jobs to be Done, which was all about thinking about, people do not want to do the task they're doing. The job that is needed to serve your customers is often a number of levels detached from all of those tasks you've done. So I'd like us to think about, rather than jobs to be done, but what is the outcome we want to achieve? So when we're looking at how AI can help our businesses, let's really start with the outcomes we're trying to drive. And a simple sort of example of this is, this famous economist said, people don't want quarter-inch drills. They want quarter-inch holes. The drill is just a tool to meet that outcome. Their requirement is for a hole. But actually, going forward than this, let's delve a bit deeper into this question. Why did they want a 14-inch, a quarter-inch hole? Well, maybe it was because they were putting up a shelf or a bookshelf, right? So actually, what people wanted was a bookshelf or a shelf. They needed a hole to achieve that. They needed a drill to do that hole. And you can, it's similar to Simon Sinek's The Five Whys of keep drilling down until you really understand the motivations bit behind this. And maybe they don't want a bookshelf, but maybe what they really want is to be reading more and more books, and they didn't have space to buy new books. So maybe the answer is actually a Kindle. So when we're looking at how AI can revolutionize our businesses, we should be looking and asking those detached whys, what do we really want to achieve, what are the outcomes we're trying to achieve, and then work backwards as to what the opportunities or the problems to solve to get there. An even more tangible problem is we see this all the time, that people are producing reports and spending a lot of time producing reports or PowerPoints for the recipients to spend a lot of time decoding that and trying to find the points of interest out of that. AI as a technology can really help us get from that knowledge source, the person with the knowledge, to the person interpreting that knowledge for a certain outcome without having to go through all the steps in the middle, right? So how do we approach this? Well, we've built this, what we call the opportunity workshop, where we systematically go through a number of steps to try and uncover these base outcomes, these base opportunities for AI to make a difference. I'm going to share with you here, and I'm going to walk through the steps for this. And we've actually got a Figma template that I'm happy to share. So if you like what you're seeing through in this and you want to actually get the source of the Figma template, then at the end type Tom. I think if they type workshop in, you'll get it sent out to the people who want to see that.
Absolutely, yeah. So drop workshop into the chat at any point, and then I'll get your details and ping it to you afterwards.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing we'll do is what I started with is finding the hopes and fears, really. That I think Tom's tired of me asking this in workshops, but I am adamant that I think this is one of the best tools of really understanding where people are coming from. The first thing to make clear, when we have participants in this workshop, we want a mixture of business people, marketing people, commercial people, and IT and technical people. And when you get people from different backgrounds together, from different roles, there's often a lot of misunderstanding. There's often a lot of bias there, really, of, oh, I expect them to think that. We're actually, Tom and I were in a workshop today, and the chief safeguarding officer, this was a sports club, had great views on how Gen AI, he was using ChatGPT, for trying to come up with creative ways and explanations. He was using AI a lot, whereas you'd think, oh, that's compliance and governance. And it was the marketing team who didn't quite know the tools that he had at his disposal, and they could benefit from it. So you shouldn't have any preconceptions about people's knowledge, in here around AI. So the first thing I would always start at is try to surface some of these. I see from what we've done here that Milan, the hardest part is integrating to line of business applications. So here we already know that whatever creativity we come up with, whatever vision for agents that can do everything, the element there for Milan to be concerned with is how would you integrate it? How would you actually integrate it into the line of business application to make sure it's seamless, but also how would you get at the data and the APIs to be able to integrate it to get at that data? So you learn a lot by asking these simple questions, and I wouldn't get everyone to put all their fears on. We phrase it quite specifically to say, what is your deepest fear? What is your main fear? Right. There we go. Another sort of integration one there, I think, from James, around RAG presenting risks and generative data, gen data interpretation could integrate risks. So we already know now that if we're doing one of our first projects here, that's something we'd have to prove early for those stakeholders. And if you get a mixture of stakeholders and you get all of their fears and their hopes, if you are satisfying those in the early projects, you will very quickly get allies in your AI journey. Another similar tool we do is what we call the innovation change appetite. That some organizations will set a business strategy to say we need to be number one in our market by the end of the next 3 years, or others that say we're focusing on profit and driving profit from this. Others are we want to mitigate the risks of AI. So business strategy will have different levels of risk profile of innovation that they want to achieve. Now, when we're in the room, this is a really interesting exercise. We ask people to score from 1 to 9 in these 5 dimensions. Do they think that the organization is market leading or a follower? Do they think they've got a high risk profile or a low risk profile? Is their benefits profile to really invest and get growth or get cost control? When they do invest, is it low cost incremental? Spend some money, prove the ROI of it, get the business case to spend the next, or is it foundational investments? Do they have 12-month, 24-month programs that they need big returns, but at the end of it? And then the technology innovation, do they like proven or cutting edge? And what we always find is it's not the results really that are interesting here. It's the disparity between different people's views. This was a real one that we did, and someone thought the risk profile there was 3. Someone else thought it was 9. Someone thought that they were highly open to taking risks to differentiate themselves. Someone thought they were really safe. Now, sometimes this is the different roles people play in the organization. Sometimes it's just the understanding and the discussion of that, and getting that common understanding is absolutely crucial if we're going to bring business, IT, marketing, commercial together for these solutions. So we normally discuss this and we understand why is someone at one extreme, someone at another, why is there a disparity. Sometimes we agree to disagree, but understand people's different views. So it's not about getting those results and those figures out, it's about getting that kind of discussions out. Some people will say, well, we're really innovative because we've done this in our customer channels facing applications. And someone would say, no, it's proven because I deal with finance systems, right? So getting that full understanding allows you to spot the right places to apply AI, but also understand the stakeholders that you need to bring along with that.
Just a question from me, Mark, on that some people may be thinking about. How do you garner interest from a plethora of stakeholders from different departments? What would you recommend is the best way of going about that to get them involved in something like this in the first instance?
So I think when we've done workshops before in my many years of doing these, you've always had to explain the outcomes, what people will get out of these workshops. I think we're a bit different now, though, because everyone has got an interest in AI and everyone has got an interest in making sure that AI is applied responsibly at the right pace, in the right way for the right outcomes. So if we ask any organization that we've asked, whether we've been talking to sort of business leaders or IT leaders, and when we've said for the workshop, we would like to bring, multiple groups of stakeholders together, I don't think we've ever had a no or a why. It's more like, how do we choose the right people, and do we want ones who are skeptical about AI? Do we want ones who are positive? And actually, it's getting that mix that is right. And I don't think we've ever dictated to say we want these job roles in it. We've normally left it to those leaders to say, get a good representative group within it, right? So I don't think we've got the problem at the moment with the AI kind of solutions. But what's really important for me when we do workshops looking at opportunities is we want to tie that to something that's going to move the business forward. So whether it is your business strategy, whether it is a key proposition that you're looking to roll out as part of that business strategy, whether it's a business process that is constraining you or you're worried about kind of the outcomes are not differentiating you in the market. We always like to do the upfront work to say, let's identify 3 drivers to look at in this workshop. Commonly, there will be things around efficiency, customer experience, commercial growth. We've had a lot around more insightful decisions, etc. But we do the pre-work to make sure these are the ones that if we went to the board and said, we've got some great ideas around that, they'll go, yeah, let me hear it, right? So here's an example. These are not the ones, but you would want to find the 3 categories that work for you. Okay. What we then will do is we will look at those 3 categories after educating that team onto the common language of what we talked about in the intelligence blueprint in the earlier sessions. We would then look at from 2 aspects. First, where are the pain points in these processes or these initiatives, or that is preventing the outcomes that you want? Where's the friction? Where's the waste in the process? What's the root cause of all the errors that are occurring, right? All of those are problems that AI might be able to solve. Now, when we are brainstorming, don't get hung up on, is this an AI solution or not? Let's look at the problem, because I'm a firm believer that there will be some value that AI can solve, but if people start thinking about just AI solutions, they'll be thinking about automation. They will be thinking about things that could be solved by solving an integration problem in their IT architecture. But at this stage, we want to just make it no idea is a bad idea. Let's look at your problems, and then we'll use our knowledge of saying, well, which of these are sweet spots for, are the most feasible for AI to solve the problem. We also, though, want to look at opportunities. We use a term called moments of truth that came from a sort of an experienced designer technique called service blueprint, which are the moments that you're working with your customer that will allow them to either make a positive or negative buying decision, renewal decision, retention decision, a promotion, a referral decision. Let's identify all of those, because I can guarantee that the majority of those can be enhanced by AI. We want to look at the areas where you're being creative in the product that you're producing for your customers, or the way you're marketing it, or the way you're engaging. And we want to look at innovation possibilities, right? So we will map out for those business strategies the areas, and we will brainstorm. What we normally do is split the group into 3 different groups, get them brainstorming in that, and then switching round and having a look at all the post-its, or in Figma, all of the areas in the breakout room, add to that, enhance that. It's very good if someone's coming and looking at something and they're seeing what others have done, and that's generating ideas for gaps or for other ideas, and then switch around again. So we do quite a bit of work of reflecting on what has been the ideas and discussing them, etc. Here's a couple of ideas that came out from a recent one we did with a public sector organisation that we work with, where they're actually doing assessments really for benefits, for medical benefits, and people came up with citizen complaints of not knowing why they're declined. So that was the pain points. That is the cause of the error to the users, the customers, or the citizens, as they call them here. There were efficiency ones, like auto-assess the application, was taking a lot of time with medical practitioners. And someone was thinking more creative. Could we have an inline assessment advisor? All these are valid at that brainstorming stage, right? But once we've done that, we will then look at these processes and saying, right, if you had none of these pain points, if you had none of the constraints, if you design this, constraint free, what would the process look like? And then we'll consolidate some of those tickets in saying, well, what could that look like? So this one turned into inline assessment advisor, help the citizen get the application right first time, adding context and checklist for the assessment points. So suddenly you've got a very tangible idea of how it can not just solve the pain points, but you're turning those pains into advantages. At the workshop earlier, there was one of the post-its was about the amount of complaints that need to be dealt with. This was a football club, and after a match, whether they've done well or not, there's always complaints. You know, you have 10, 20,000 people attending, and it felt like the pain point was just an efficiency one about, well, how can I answer those quicker? But of course, even complaints or even claims in insurance, another sector we work with, here's a moment of truth. This is an opportunity to delight that customer. You deal with a complaint well or a claim well, and you've retained that customer and you've actually strengthened their relationship. So all of these problems, I would also look at it. What's the opportunity to turn that negative into a positive? If you have a complaint and it's dealt with very quickly, with clear information, with the kind of agreement that you're going to deal with that, and then signposting them to some added value, that customer will come off that call or that conversation with with an agent, with an automated agent, a bigger fan of your organization. If you can get claims processed with the first time interaction, that customer is 90+% more likely to renew straight away. Okay. What we do once we've got all of these ideas is we score them, and we score them based on 2 axes and 3 questions for each axis. And some people like to think of it as 3 points for each, giving it a 1 to 9, or you can just give a kind of a collated score. But what is the business value of it? What value will it create? Is it aligned strategically? And is this foundational for the future? And then I like to ask just everyone's view on the implementation ease. Now, normally I get from this, oh, I don't know how hard it is to implement AI agents. So, well, don't comment on that then. Comment on how you think this will scale within the organization, or is the business ready for it? And you get really good views there. So people aren't getting hung up on this is an easy, low-hanging fruit that I hear a lot because IT have already got a agent framework to do that. You really start to understand the difficulties or the ease of rolling this out to the business. So we debate this quite a lot and place these kind of ideas, on this axis. And then once we've got that, we will take the top 3 of these and design the blueprint that I talked about in my previous kind of session. So we'll look at how will the human interact with this level of intelligence. What is the changes needed in the systems to make this available for AI? So this is that kind of claims citizen benefit assessment kind of agents. So now when the citizen applies, the first thing we'll do is we will automate it to go and get certain medical knowledge, get their clinical and their citizen history for this, and not give them an answer because that wouldn't be ethical at that stage, but spot the things they haven't explained well or spot the things that's missing from their application. So be on their side and help them prepare the application that can then go to the assessor. Facts can be summarized and get the decision out there, and then help using AI as well to replay back to the citizen to make sure they fully understand it. So the decision is not just one email going out going, you're accepted or you're declined. It is asking them, do you understand why? Do you think this is fair? A lot better human experience in that example. Okay. And then for each of those, we like to do what we call the blueprint canvas here. Now, a really great technique, Amazon use this really well, is called PRFAQ, which before you even start building this solution, think about what will be the press release at the end of it that says what a great success it was. What will your customers, what quote or testimonial will they give on it? what questions will people be asking on this, right? And that really helps you refine what the vision and the value for these solutions will be. And then we also have techniques to drill down on what data and systems changes are needed and which risks are there that we've got to build in guardrails, right? So this is the workshop. It's about identifying these opportunities and coming out with the top three, first of all, tangible opportunities. And then from those, because of the canvas, we can identify which habits we want to build as we're driving through these. So that's the opportunities. How do we build a roadmap based on those? Well, in simple terms, we'll take that first blueprint, right? That idea, like that the claims assessor or the complaints advisor or the benefits assistant. And we would look at that like this inline assessment advisor and say, as we deliver that, we're hoping all of these projects are max 3 months to implement. You should be having a delivery cycle where you can get things out in front of users, whether it's a pilot or a prototype, or ideally in our view, a fully working production system, that you can get it out and then you can refine it and you can change it. But as you're doing that, select the right habits to build. What habits are going to needed to make this successful? So these habits are kind of introduced in our assessment that I showed you the link of earlier. But obviously for this advisor, we need to get this human AI journey maps right. We need to understand how we're going to have handoffs between users, customers or citizens, and the back-end intelligence that we're providing. In this example, responsible by default is definitely a good habit to build. Version everything. And then around the products, and sorry for the typos in that fourth post-it, that looks like a copy and paste, but there's the one around the people, I think is missing there, which is about really understanding how these AI solutions can actually be accepted by the customers, and how you can take them on the board that this is a positive thing. It's not automation for automation's sake, it's automation for their benefit. So that's the piece of people education I think is needed in this solution. Okay. And then you can map out, let's take the second blueprint, and which habits do we want to build with that? And I advise you sort of build 4 to 6 habits as you're kind of building these solutions out and as you're getting them in. Now, obviously, you want to be building the foundations to be able to run models or build agents or change user interfaces as you go along. That should be in the project. In my view, that should not be outsourced to a separate innovation team who are doing that. You need to move fast with this. You need to be able to get these solutions out in front of the users. But as you're doing it, you need to be building these habits for successful adoption. And if you fill in the assessment, you'll see all of these habits. So that, in my view, is the 2 perspectives of the roadmap. The one, the blueprints or the solutions that you're going to put in on the base of those blueprints, and then the habits you're building around the organization to make sure you're implementing AI in the right way to be sustainable. Okay. Now, we talked a bit about agents there. My next session in 2 weeks' time is going to be all about agents. I feel that I've talked for 3 sessions here, and all you've heard is my voice and a bit of Tom's as well. So I'm actually reaching out to a couple of guests for the next 2. So we'll drill down a bit into a bit more detail around agents, and then the final one, AI in the SDLC. But yeah, Tom, are there any questions that have arisen through this? I see there's been discussion with a few on
no direct questions, but some interesting discussion.
Yeah. I mean, feel free to go off mute if anyone's got any questions you want to do. Lisanne wants the recording, so Tom, you'll follow up with kind of links to the recordings, and if anyone wants to see the Figma template, remember, let us know. We won't send it out to everyone if you're not interested in it, but type workshop if you want to see that.
Yeah, no, recording will be with everyone within about 45 minutes after it's processed. But yeah, as Mark said, if anyone would like the Figma template for that workshop so that you can run it yourselves, or if you need some additional support, obviously we're more than happy to help. So
Liz makes a good point that we had a workshop with security teams in, and it's like at this stage with AI, people know the AI wave's coming. So kind of getting the naysayers or the real critics or the skeptics involved early to understand what their feelings are on that. And definitely whenever I've got the security team in, they want it to be successful. They just want it to be secure. So baking in their views early is probably one of the critical success factors, I think, for successful adoption. Okay. No questions?
No.
And I think we're bang on time anyway. So thank you all for your attention, and hopefully I'll see you in 2 weeks to talk about agents.
Thanks, everybody.